After the last run with the highest possible DPS, I wanted to try another similar build that I've been wanting to try for a while. In Dark Souls, AR stands for attack rating, which basically just means the raw attack damage number. Not literally the amount of damage you do, but the number the game uses to determine how much damage you should do. This run has the same idea as the last one, using a seemingly powerful build, with drawbacks you might not think of before actually doing the run. In this case, the negatives are the exact opposite of the last run. Instead of not having enough time to get our full damage potential, if we land a hit, we're getting that full AR, no matter what. If is a very important word there though, since it's an incredibly slow weapon. Most enemies are slow enough that we can attack them in certain openings, but some enemies are annoying to get that opening with. Think Tortalas. And some enemies are always in groups, which makes them annoying in this build too, like Tortalas. Also, this isn't the highest possible damage in one hit, even with a melee weapon. To my knowledge, that actually goes to the Dragon King Great Axe with its shockwave on top of its heavy attack. This is just the highest possible number that you can get in the menu. We start off the run pretty normally. I'm starting as the Bandit since it has the highest starting strength of all the classes, and we're going to need 35 strength to even start the run, with 46 to one-hand the weapon. I just do the Asylum casually since we need to get to the Taurus Demon to get our weapon. The Battle Axe does some decent damage, and despite its simplicity, has a pretty nice moveset. I'm sure I'll be using this weapon on its own at some point, whether or not it's as part of a video. We get through the Berg nice and easy, grind out 10 humanity for the increased drop chance because we're going to need it, grab the gold pine resin, and get to beating the Taurus Demon over and over. The best way we can do this, at least as far as I can tell, is to kill the two on top of the tower in the arena, then quit out and back up your save, enter the arena, kill the demon like normal. With the resin it only takes a few hits, see if it drops, and if not, reload your save. Make sure it doesn't jump off the edge, since the X spawns at its location, rather than just being in your inventory like the Demon Hammer. Each run should only take around 30 to 40 seconds, and it took me 9 kills before it was dropped, which isn't the worst. Unfortunately, we can't actually use the weapon yet, so it's time to grind out 35 strength. I'm just going to dupe souls, but with the bridge right here, it's entirely feasible to grind out 20 levels this early on. I also decided to use the Master Key to take out Havel now, so that I can hopefully not mid-roll for this entire run. The axe weighs 22 units, which is more than a lot of entire armor sets, so this ring will be very nice to have. From here, it's just as normal to sprint past the Drake. I decided to take out the Greatsword Black Knight for the Titanite chunk, as well as the one earlier in the Berg before even reaching the Taurus Demon, and then it's straight through to the Parish to get to Andre. I didn't mention it in my previous runs, but it occurs to me that maybe not everyone knows that you can make it under the portcullis before the Hollow brings it down, and that way you don't have to go through the entire parish. Just sprint past the portcullis, open it with the lever in case you die, then run to the right of the church, and you can get straight to Andre. The Great Axe upgrades with normal Titanite, which is nice, and it means we can get to +5 without grinding. On my way up to the Gargoyles, I actually saw a good Vagrant in the corner next to the entrance of the church, which is pretty crazy considering they're the rarer variant of the Vagrant, and I saw an Evil Vagrant in the last run. I also one-shot the Knight in front of the Firekeeper Soul. The damage we put out is already pretty wacky. Anyway, getting up to the Gargoyles is a bit of a pain since the axe makes us mid-roll even with Havel's Ring, but we can just unequip it and run past the Hollows. The first Gargoyle takes 3 hits to take down, and the second still takes 2, but that's barely anything. They can be kind of hard to dodge with a mid-roll, especially since it's nearly impossible to take out the first one before the second one shows up due to our slow attack speed, but they're still pretty easy. Before anything else, I want to go take out Lautrec and grab the Fap Ring. With it, on top of a couple more levels in Endurance, we can actually fast roll, which will make the coming areas much easier. I grabbed the Wolf Ring here for the Capra Demon fight, but I ended up not equipping it since fast rolling is better than poise, especially when we only have our base resistances. I went through the basin to get to the lower Berg too, and I'm not really sure why. I almost always use the Firelink elevator then go through the upper Berg, but I guess I'm not really sure which way is faster. The lower Berg is as annoying as ever, especially with how slow our weapon is. It takes some decent timing to attack a dog, and very careful maneuvering with the thieves. Backstabbing the thieves is probably the best choice, but sometimes getting into the right position can be difficult. The first 3 dogs jump into the fire, the first 2 thieves can be attacked through their door, and the third is no trouble on its own. Then the other 3 thieves and 2 dogs should be kited away for the easiest time. It's still annoying and difficult, but nothing impossible. I was able to reach the Capra Demon second try, and I beat him on another second try. The hardest part is always the beginning. Simply run around the demon counterclockwise, dodge the dogs on the way up the stairs, then use a heavy attack at the top so the axe doesn't bounce off the wall. From there, the demon itself is easy as usual, and we can grab the large ember nice and easy by jumping down from the stairs straight into where the butcher is, then grabbing the ember itself. Jump down into where the giant rat is, run back up after grabbing the key, then use the bone you got from the demon to get back to Firelink. I did actually see how much damage I did to the Gaping Dragon, but it wasn't very much and I wanted to do it in only a few hits, so I warped back out. Sprinting down to Quelaag is as simple as ever. Simply run past everything in the tunnel, go down the elevator, and roll through the swamp. Quelaag herself has some pretty decent resistances, and her slow attack speed can make it hard to avoid certain attacks, like the explosion. As long as you keep an eye out for what she's doing and stay away from the demon spider abdomen to prevent the weird lava plumes, it's pretty simple. With as little stamina as we have, we barely have any opportunities to get more than one attack in, but the R1 is more useful than the R2, something I didn't learn until much later on in this run. The only time we have to get more than one strong attack in is when she sprays a big pool of lava. Also, be sure to actually make use of the running and rolling attacks. I didn't at all until near the end of the playthrough, but they come out super quickly compared to the other attacks, and the rolling attack doesn't even have too much end lag. I'm going to take out Ceaseless now so that we have a few more souls to dump into levels. I put them all into strength to get to 43, I want to get to 46 before putting more levels into anything else. Sen's Fortress is as easy as ever, assuming you know how to get through the place, but this time I'm going to be grabbing the large Titanite shards so we can have a decently upgraded weapon before the Iron Golem. There are 2 in the chest just past the first sorcerer, then running past the boulder traps, we can grab the other 2 on the roof. Then it's a simple jump to get to the Crestfallen Merchant and buy the other 5 we need so we can get to plus 10. The cage key is just below the merchant, which lets us take the elevator down and out of Sen's, and will let us easily get back up later on. Getting the soul of a brave warrior from Sen's antechamber gives us more than enough souls to get to plus 10 if we didn't have that already, and we can move on to getting up to plus 15. After the 2 chunks from the Sword and Greatsword Black Knights, as well as the 50-ish% chance from the Crystal Lizard in the Basin, we have 3 of the 7 chunks we need. It's actually like 48 point something percent, but it doesn't really matter. 1 more can be obtained after draining New Londo, and since we need to do that for the very large Ember anyway, we might as well go do that. I don't actually have the stats I need for the composite bow, so I guess that means climbing the ghost ladder is in order. I got lucky and got up on my first try, killed Ingward, drained the place, dropped down, and sprinted to the Ember. The easiest way to get to it is by dropping straight from the platform with the lever, then running straight up into the building nearby. Then up the stairs behind the Mass of Souls, straight up to the Ember. If you die, you can climb up the stairs at the beginning of New Londo, run past some ghosts, and go down the first elevator on the left. It can be annoying to get past the ghosts, but it's not terrible, all things considered. The chunk can be gotten by dropping down right past the first set of ghosts, killing the Dark Wraith, then going through the invisible wall to the right and killing the other Dark Wraith. The chunk is in the chest behind it, and the other 3 can be easily obtained on our way to ONS. Before that though, I want to grab the slab from the Stray Demon. The Torch Hollows give me issues like I said they would earlier, but it wasn't anything I wasn't prepared for. Luckily they're really bad at pathfinding, and you could just attack them from the other side of the walls along the side of the pathway. The Stray itself is easy, you just gotta use the same strategies as always. Kill the 2 hollows near the arena before you drop down, roll behind it, heal if you need to, and start smacking that booty. Walk backwards a bit before the explosion, walk forward, smack, walk back, unlock and sprint around if it tries to face you, all the normal stuff. We can't use the Titanite slab just yet, but we will be able to soon. There are 2 Titanite chunks we can grab in Sen's, just make sure to ascend the axe to plus 11 before moving on. One of the chunks is from the giant that opened the gate, and the other one is the firebomb thrower. The first can be gotten super early on by just dropping down to the left of the first walkway, climbing the ladder, and going through the invisible wall. Why did I write invisible wall? Illusory wall. The other is pretty self-explanatory. The giant that drops the boulders doesn't actually drop a chunk since you're not supposed to walk over there. You can if you jump off of a specific point, but just barely, and there's no reason to. The Iron Golem is easy, as usual, but with this much damage, I didn't actually end up knocking it over. It didn't even wobble, I just hit it a few times and it died. Anor Londo is easy enough to run through now that we're capable of fast rolling, and none of the enemies present a particularly large threat. The Painting Guardians are easy enough to run past, or even take out in one hit. The second Gargoyle can be taken out with a single plunging attack if you happen to get the double hit, and the Archers and Demons are, well, how they usually are. Just run past and you'll usually be fine, as long as you don't get unlucky. The Silver Knight goes down to a single parry, as it should at this point, and the bonfire is literally around the corner. From here, the last chunk we need is in reach. Just jump over the railing, run above and around the chapel room, down the stairs, out in front of the giant, take out the demons, and grab the chunk. We now officially have a maximum damage weapon before Ornstein and Smote. Well, not the maximum damage, but we have the weapon with the highest AR at the maximum level before Ornstein and Smote. I guess that's technically more accurate. The slow attack speed can be an issue, but Ornstein goes down to 3 R1s, so it doesn't really take patience or strategy. The scoop can be scary, as it always is, but walking near Smo will usually make him attack, which gives you plenty of time to bait and attack Ornstein. Smo goes down to around 6 R1s, which I would recommend over strong attacks, since it will leave you enough stamina to roll away if Smo decides it happens to be a great time to use a slam attack. Now that we have the Lord Vessel, we can take out the rest of the bosses without worrying about getting our damage up beforehand. This is the fun part of the run. Well, I enjoy the building more usually, but obliterating bosses is pretty fun. I decided to take out Gwendolyn now. Technically, the highest possible AR requires Dark Moonblade, but I really don't feel like grinding out the tokens or the 30 levels in Faith, and pure strength Unga Bunga is funnier anyway. I will go back and get the highest actual AR at the end of this run, but for now, I'm just going to kill Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn can be taken out in 2 cycles, which is fewer than usual, and we can move on. Next up on the hit list, Seath. Why? I don't know. I guess I wanted to get it out of the way. That is really hard to say. I guess I wanted to get it out of the way. That took so many takes, and I didn't even get it. The boars are the perfect example of this build's strengths and weaknesses, especially as opposed to the high DPS build. Our attacks are extremely slow, so attacking fast enemies is rough, but when they land, they land. The boars can be taken out in 2 hits and leave plenty of openings despite their speed. Even the crystal hollows leave enough of an opening for a single attack to take them out, and even if they didn't, a backstab makes that moot. I thought it would be funny to take out the channeler since I don't normally do that, and it died in a single hit, so that was fun, I guess. The weird crystal guy in Seath's hallway goes down to a single parry, and I got cursed, of course. Oh well, it's not a big issue, I just need to not get hit through the prison section. That sounds hard with all the Pazakas, but when they die to a single hit from our fastest attack, it's a complete non-issue. They can even be backstabbed if you really need the iframes. The man-serpents also go down to a single hit, so the prison tower is a brief footnote more than an obstacle. On my way out, I hit the channeler with an R1 to see what would happen, and it died instantly, which I think is really funny. I got hit by the other one on my way down, but surprisingly it didn't kill me, which is a relief. From here, we can warp away and get a purging stone, which is genuinely a relief. I wasn't expecting that intense feeling of relief after playing this game so many times in so many more difficult ways, but it was still there. I think that's why I wanted to make these 2 videos actually, aside from them just being a couple fun runs with builds I've never done before. I'm not good at this game, despite my apparent accomplishments. Those purely come down to patience and knowledge, and that's why I love this game so much. I can go into the game with the highest possible damage and still have issues with certain areas. I love it. There's a reason why this is my favorite game of all time. Anyway, Seath dies instantly and we can move on. Seriously though, just stand a little ways away, you get a feel for the distance after a couple attempts, wait for the mid-range laser, run in, hit, run away. That's the whole fight. You might have to run from the explosion, but it's easy to do. Seath goes down to 7 R1s in 3 cycles and we can move on. Next up, for no reason in particular, Nito. In retrospect, taking out the Bed of Chaos first would have been better, but either way. Dropping down through the catacombs is the same as ever, but we do take a lot more fall damage because of how heavy the axe is. Just make sure to drink an Estus before the second drop, be careful of the bone wheels, and we're ready for Pinwheel. Alright, Pinwheel's dead. That was fun. It dropped the Mask of the Father, which is actually probably the best mask that could have been dropped for this run, as it increases our equip load. I took a wrong turn through the Tomb of the Giants, which is rare. I'm not sure why I misremembered it so bad, but after that it was all smooth sailing. I let Patches kick me off so I could grab the Skull Lantern. Vince and Nico, while slippery, still go down to 1 hit for Vince and 2 for Nico. Patches dies to a single heavy attack because I thought it would be funny, and we sprint through the rest of the tomb with no issues whatsoever. Nito is super easy, as always. The skeletons pose an issue with how slow our attack is, especially when Nito spams the ground stab attack instead of actually coming towards us. My winning strategy was waiting for Nito to approach me until the skeletons started moving, backstabbing them until Nito got close enough to do it for me, then attacking Nito himself. He goes down to just 8 R1s, which I used because I wanted stamina to dodge the skeletons if I needed to, and it was an easy first try. Definitely first try. The demon ruins are barely worth mentioning. The hardest part was the worm, who went down in just 2 jump attacks, which took around 10 seconds. The minor capper demon isn't a threat at all, and the rest is basically just a walking simulator, especially since enemies can't reach the demon fire sage's fog wall. The fire sage is just as easy as the stray, going down to only 8 attacks. Remember that jump attacks are quicker than normal strong attacks and do the same amount of damage. You should pretty much always use them if you have the spacing available. Rolling and running attacks are both faster and do the same amount of damage as normal R1s as well, but again, the spacing and stamina management is a bit tighter with them. The Centipede Demon can be lured to the platform and dies in only 6 attacks. The attacks are mostly easy to pull off, even if it moves around a lot and can be hard to hit with our speed. Most of his attacks give plenty of time to retaliate, as long as you're nearby after the attack. Just be sure to be careful of being too close, especially during its jump attacks. With the orange Shard Ring, we can run straight to the Bed of Chaos, but I did actually see another good Vagrant on the way. I thought it was an evil Vagrant at first, but it was just the shading. 2 Vagrants in 1 run is kind of insane, especially 2 good Vagrants. Especially after the last run with another evil Vagrant. I mean, it was bound to happen eventually after over 500 hours in the game. It's just crazy to actually see it happen. It makes me wonder how many people watching this haven't even seen a Vagrant. Let me know if you haven't, I'm genuinely interested. On that topic, the bonfire in the second building is super obvious to me. I found it in my first playthrough, likely because of a forum post, but how many people didn't have that luxury? The bed is the same as it always is. Run to one side, run to the other, jump to the middle. This is the first time I've beaten the bit of chaos without quitting out in a very long time, and honestly, I'm not really sure why I decided to do this. I died twice, but neither of them were while I was running back to the middle. This is technically the only time we one-shot a boss in the run, but we did also have to hit the nodes, so I'm not sure if this technically counts as a one-shot, but I'm counting it because it's cool to say that we did one-shot a boss, despite the fact that you can do that in literally every single playthrough. I usually do the 4 kings first since I beat Sif as one of my earliest bosses, but this time I did them last because, I don't know, I wanted to shake things up a bit, I guess. So I ran to the secret bonfire by the gate, but I realized I couldn't open it yet. I buy the Artorias from Crest, died totally on purpose because I wanted to get back to the bonfire faster, and use Andre to open the gate. The forest hunters don't hit me for once. I grab the hornet ring, and it's time for Sif. She's no harder than usual, probably easier to be honest. All of her attacks have a lot of end lag, which gives you plenty of time to get in a strong attack of your own. 3 counter hits, or in my case, a counter hit and 3 normal strong attacks, will take her out super fast. I wouldn't recommend jumping attacks, they'd be hard to land with her thigh gaps. I'm going to take out the butterfly now before I forget. After a bit of easy dodging, she lands and we can take her out in 2 hits. Luckily, we already drained Nulando earlier, so we can jump straight down to the 4 kings. Unfortunately, I can't fast roll with all the armor on without Havel's Ring yet, so we'll be going into the 4 kings slightly naked. I have managed to actually upgrade my health a bit for this run, unlike normal, so it won't be terrible. I don't quite have enough health to put on Havel's armor and Unga Bunga my way through the fight, but I don't really want to do that anyway. The same things as always apply here. They're super easy to dodge aside from the magic, and you can just heal after that, so it's barely a threat. And the hard part is just dealing enough damage while you're still dodging them. Most attacks give you a good amount of time to retaliate, as long as you make sure you're prepared to dodge the grab and explosion attacks. They're slow enough, and you'll likely have enough stamina at this point that you can use heavy and jump attacks no problem. For the 3rd king, it's probably best to use mostly R1s so that you can deal more damage to the overall health after it dies, and potentially take them out in 3 kings. I just barely missed it, and it's only because I was healing as the 1st king was dying. Before beating the game, I'm going to go through the DLC because, I don't know, I guess this is an all bosses run now. I bought 99 firebombs just in case the axe couldn't reach the final head of the Hydra, but that wasn't an issue at all. It turns out that when you do an obscene amount of damage per every hit, you don't need to cut off all the heads. I've killed the Hydra on 6 heads before, maybe 5, but never 4. Doing this much damage is really fun. The golems that hold Dusk and the Broken Pendant are both no problem at all, and we can move on to the Sanctuary Guardian. The Sanctuary Guardian is extremely fast, but also extremely frail. It doesn't do much damage, and it doesn't even have that much health. There are a couple tips I can offer that help generally, but the only thing I can say about this run is your faster attacks are better. You might have enough time to do a jump attack after a dive or a wave, but I wouldn't count on it. After the slam and combo are your most plentiful openings, even if they don't quite seem like openings. The combo will either be 2 attacks or 4, and I've never seen it do 2 combos in a row. If it attacks with the same thing twice in a row, it'll stop immediately, otherwise it will do 4 attacks. So if it does 2 paw swipes or 2 headbutts, then it'll stop, but if it does a swipe then a headbutt, or vice versa, then it will do 4 attacks. Then you'll have an opportunity to get in an R1, or a rolling attack if needed. Sprinting to Artorias is easy, as ever. I decided to take out Chester, but he ended up doing a bit of damage to me in the process, so I went to the Artorias fight with less than full healing, but with my experience I doubt that it'll be an issue. He isn't much of a problem like he was in the DPS run. Our damage comes from single bursts, so any moment to attack will give us plenty of time to get off our full damage potential. Not all of his attacks can be punished, but a good number of them can. His stabs are easy to punish, his somersaults can be roll attacked if you're confident in your ability to read them, but they can also be strafed after the first one anyway. His charge and a slash can be safely roll attacked. You can knock him out of buffing, you really only need to watch out for the pocket abyss, quick spin, and when he jumps away after a quick slash. Either way, Artorias goes down with more struggle than was likely necessary, and we can move on. The Ell Township is annoying, but not hard. The blowheads, including the sorcerer variant, die in 1 hit most of the time and can be easily run past. Don't get me wrong, it's probably the hardest part of the DLC that isn't a boss, aside from maybe the Calamite runs dogs, but it's not as bad as some of the other parts of the game. The Mimic with the crest key dies in 2 hits before it can even stand up, so that's not an issue. The section with the 2 sorcerers just before the prisoner can be run past as long as you're careful to roll through the projectiles, and the prisoner itself is easy to take out. I actually ran past it in the DPS run because it was just annoying to deal with, but with how much damage we do, it's only a couple hits to take out. The blowhead on the elevator is funny the first time, but it's usually just annoying. This time it just kind of jumped off the edge itself, so I didn't even have to deal with it. I kindled the dungeon bonfire because I'm bad at fighting Manus and wanted security for later, but before that, I'm actually going to fight Calamite because Manus just feels like the final boss. So we talk to Goff, kill some dogs, say hi to Calamite, bone, then go back to Goff, watch the best cutscene in the game, then kill some more dogs before facing the dragon. Oh, I killed Kieran? Somewhere in there too, but it was pretty easy. She had a lot more health than I was expecting, but regardless. Calamite itself? Anyway, Calamite is pretty easy, if a little janky when you don't know what you're doing. The neck pushes you even when you're rolling, so it can catch you and damage you once your iframes are out. Try to keep an eye out for your stamina so you can run away from the fire breath when you need to, and try to keep away from the walls so the turnaround fire breath isn't too close to dodge. The grab and standing breath are both great attack opportunities, and the stomp is pretty common when you're close up, but is easy to dodge. The spin always catches me out. It's similar looking to the neck swipe, but has a completely different dodge timing. The straight fire breath is another great time to get some damage if you're close enough, and the dive can be used to smack the tail as long as you're behind it after it lands. With a bit of time, Calamite goes down without much trouble. Alright, time for the two final bosses of the run. Manus is the hardest boss in the game, no competition, at least for me. Calamite is hard, but Manus has some BS attacks. The shotgun attack and the 5-hit combo are both stupid hard to read, and the closing circle just can't be dodged if you happen to be too far away. On the other hand, the circle is a huge opening if you're close enough. Each attack has a different best response. You're not going to want to use strong attacks after quick attacks, and you'll want to capitalize on the openings you get as much as you can. The slam, the wide swipe, jump, smaller jump, they can all be punished with jump attacks at best. Definitely not standing strong attacks if you can avoid it. But other attacks like his 2 swipes and staff slam are much harder to punish. I was actually able to beat Manus with only 5 Estus, so it turns out kindling the bonfire earlier was pointless, because I'm better at the game than I thought. Anyway, we wake up dusk and move on to the ceremonial final boss of the run, Gwyn. Gwyn actually got me because he used his fast slash 3 times in a row, and I was not ready for that at all. I didn't want to use the trick where you drink Estus between parries, purely out of principle, but there's literally no reason not to. I did grab the Hornet Ring earlier, so we do plenty of damage. 3 easy parries and Gwyn is dead. That was probably one of the easiest Gwyn fights I've ever had. I just remembered I completely forgot to fight the Gaping Dragon and Priscilla. Oops. There we go, that's better. Now, this time, instead of making a follow-up video where I get the actual highest AR, I'm going to get it at the end of this one. It's pretty much exactly the same setup as the highest DPS, getting the weapon to plus 15, giving Gwendolyn 99 ears, power leveling, all that, then getting the hyper mode stuff. I did do something different this time though. I didn't get the Dragon Torso Stone, the buff that lasts only a few seconds and can barely be used for a single hit, let alone a proper DPS build, which is why I didn't use it in that run. It wasn't about the highest damage possible in a couple hits, it was not a Dark Bead run. Anyway, I didn't get it in this run because I didn't want to leave Blades of the Dark Moon and get another souvenir. Anyway, get the hyper mode stuff, and then something I actually should have done in the DPS video, ascend the axe to Crystal. I had no idea crystal-infused weapons could be buffed, but apparently they can because they're pure physical damage. This is what that AR looks like. You probably won't be one-shotting most bosses like this. The Dragon King Great Axe probably does better for that, but this is about the number in the menu, and that's as high as it gets, at least as far as I know. Alright, hopefully this video isn't too echoey. I'm using a much better microphone, but I'm literally sitting in a pile of stuffed animals and blankets because this apartment has no furniture yet, so it's horribly echoey. Hopefully that won't be true for too long, and hopefully it's not that bad. Thank you to The Crack, Manorock, Edril Dorano, V, Emily, and Ryan Rickard for continuing to support the channel. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I love you all, and I don't know how to end this.